to talk about the BNSF Quiet Zone engineering project. We're going here in 2 or 3 minutes with our presentation. Just going to give other folks another few minutes to join in case they weren't here right at 5:30. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get going talking about our project out at the BNSF East Track and implementing a quiet zone. Um, my name is Chad Jones. I'm the City of Olathe's project manager for this project. Tonight, I'm joined by several members of our consultant trans systems. We've got Matt Gottabed, Chad Vanka, and Bridget Ray joining us. They've been a huge help as we've started developing concepts for several locations to implement this quiet zone along the East Track. A quick overview of kind of what this project will entail. Some of you may remember several years ago on the west set of tracks for the BNSF, we implemented a quiet zone that would have been running through downtown. And since there's been an interest in implementing something similar out here on the east tracks. So Matt is going to give us a quick overview of kind of what a quiet zone is and some of the factors that go in implementing one through a given section of railway.
Yeah, so the FRA requires train engineers to blow their horns 15 seconds away from each at-grade crossing in order to make this in order to make the crossing a quiet zone. They implemented some rules to provide communities a way to silence that train through the use of supplemental safety measures at each crossing. We'll go over a few of these at each of our 3 locations, but in general, there are 4 of them. One is just close the roadway completely. That's the least expensive one. The next one is having a 4-quadrant gate system. What this is it provides gates for entering and exiting traffic on each side of the roadway. The extra gates are needed to prevent motorists from just driving around the gates. The next one would be a 2-gate with a median. What this does is just uses an entering gate and a raised median to act or channelizing devices. The typical length from the gate of the median is about 100 feet. And again, this median prevents drive arounds from a motorist. And then the last option is to convert a road into a one-way with an extended gate. At the three locations we see today, we stuck with the four quadrant gate system and the two quadrant gate with medians.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so looking at what the FRA requires for those, we were able to take some of those supplemental safety measures and implement those at each of the intersections that you see in the map. And those intersections include the crossing at Dennis Avenue, crossing at 151st Terrace, just south of 151st Street, and 159th Street. Here's kind of an exhibit of what we've conceptualized to implement the safety or the quiet zone at Dennis Avenue. Here on this exhibit, you can see that we're going to implement the four quadrant gate system that Matt described. Doing so will allow us to use four of the existing crossing gates and install four additional to complete the gate at each side of the railway in each direction of traffic. Part of this will include new gate signage, new pavement markings. We'll restripe the bike lanes in this area as well, and new sidewalk crossing panels to kind of help bridge the gap of what to bump around the new gates that we'll have to install as part of this project. Here's kind of what the section of roadway will look like at this crossing. As far as the width of the existing roadway, that will not change. The sidewalk on the north side will be removed in some areas to provide the new crossing with the new safety panels. And doing so allowed us to not have to impact Keeler Street and keep Dennis Avenue more or less the same roadway section as it is to date. Moving south down to 151st Terrace, we're going to be implementing the median safety measure that the FRA outlines in their quiet zone implementation guidelines. In this area, we will be replacing crossing arms and installing two 100-foot medians on either side of this railway crossing. Similar to up at Dennis, we will have new concrete crossing panels and a small bit of replaced sidewalk. This area is already striped with a median, so no roadway widening in this area is going to be necessary. We can simply install that raised median on top of that existing striped median at that roadway section. Here's another section view of the roadway at this area on 151st Terrace. You can see that we're just adding that 10-inch median at the center line of that roadway where that striped median currently is. This area has that bungalow area with the flashing lights that will remain in place. So the median and crossing arms are the only updates at this area to implement the quiet zone. Moving further south at 159th Street, we'll again be utilizing the raised median safety measure for this quiet zone. On the west side of the tracks here, we already have a raised median, so we only need to add and install that median on the east side of the tracks. As part of this, we'll also have to remove a commercial drive entrance, kind of you see there at the southeast area of that crossing. This is necessary to restrict traffic in this area per FRA guidelines. Here's the section view of that area. It's a wider street here, but again, we have an existing striped median, so no widening of the roadway is going to be required. We can install that raised median on top of the existing striped median. The existing crossing arms here will also remain in place. Looking forward at next steps. Currently, this project was in the conceptual phase of design. So working with Trans-Systems, what we had done is gone through the guidelines that Matt outlined that the FRA has and selected cost-effective and minimal impact to the existing crossings for each crossing that will be included in this quiet zone. So we're currently in the process of allocating funding moving forward to for final engineering and construction plans. So we're undergoing that budget process now, and we can update everyone as that budget is finalized later this year. Part of what Trans-Systems will be assisting us with is also pursuing grant funding and cost sharing through BNSF and KDOT. We'll be submitting those applications later this year and early in 2025 to try to secure some funding to help um, pay for this project. And then once we have that funding in place, have a designer on board to develop the final plans, we will have additional public meetings to talk about any changes to the concepts we've presented here tonight, what this may look like from an impact to traffic standpoint during construction. And if we have a contractor on board at that time, we'll also be introducing them as well so that their contact info can be shared as we get into construction, that they can be reached for questions. I want to thank all of you for taking some time out of your evening tonight to listen about this future upcoming project. I know that several residents have reached out and just expressed their positive outlook on getting this implemented. If there's any questions after this uh, presentation tonight, feel free to contact me. My contact info is here on the screen. And also, if you could drop your email in the chat, I can get you a email with this slide deck sent over to you for review if you would like to look at it and generate any additional questions.
We have a question in the chat from Dean. He asks, how
Yes.
long to construct each crossing, assuming funding is provided?
Dean, thanks for joining. At this time, we don't have a construction schedule for any of this because we're still strictly in the conceptual phase. So part of what our development of these plans to date have been to not include a construction schedule. I would anticipate that all of this work could be done within a single construction season. However, once we get further into the design process and put together a construction schedule, that will be shared to everyone publicly.
We have another question. How much of the funding you need do you plan to request, and do you think you will receive from grants? That's from Andrew.
Thank you for the question, Andrew. So we will be looking at cost share funding from KDOT and Chrissy grants from the FRA. And Bridget, I may ask you to weigh in here. I know you have a lot more familiarity with securing these and what kind of opportunities we have for funding through those avenues.
Yeah, so Andrew, with the KDOT cost share, that's construction funding only, so we'll only be able to get reimbursed for our construction costs. So any of the preliminary engineering design won't be covered through that. We feel pretty good about the KDOT cost share, but we are considering pursuing some other grants, namely the Chrissy discretionary federal grant. And quiet zone maybe a little bit more up in the air with a federal grant, but like I said before, we do feel more confident with the KDOT cost share. But good question. And Jim has
Thank you,
another.
Bridget.
Yeah, of course. Jim has a question. Will this also cover the crossing out Southgate and Harrison, or is that already part of the quiet zone?
So this section of quiet zone does not currently include the crossings at Southgate and Harrison. These were looked into kind of on the early development of these conceptual plans. However, we felt that implementing it at the three selected intersection or crossings that we presented tonight gave us our best opportunity to get this project done in a future CIP. Those two intersections are not being pursued in a future project per se, but they are not currently included in the construction plans for this project.
I don't see any other questions, but if y'all have any, we'll be running through this presentation again at 6 p.m. So feel free to join then if you think of anything. And Chad's contact information is up on the screen as well if you think of something afterward.
Yeah, that's right, Bridget. And again, if you would like a copy of these slides, please drop your email in the chat and I will send those out as soon as I can after this meeting.
A few people just joined, so letting you know that we will have another presentation going over the East Track in Olathe at 6 p.m. We just finished up here, but feel free to throw any questions you have in the chat or hang tight until 6 p.m.
Okay, it looks like we've had several more people join. I know we've been talking about starting again at 6, but if we've got a full house, we can go ahead and start here at 5:50, and if need be, we can add another presentation at 6:10 for anyone who joins after that point. Um, if that works for everybody, Bridget, Matt.
That sounds great. The more the merrier.
Alrighty. Well, then we will go ahead and get going with our presentation tonight. Thank you everyone for joining. Tonight we'll be discussing BNSF East Track Quiet Zone engineering project. So this project comes on the heels, some of you may know, of the West Track Quiet Zone that was implemented several years back in downtown Olathe. Since then, there's been a desire for this to occur on the east tracks that run through primarily residential areas. So we want to talk to everyone about the progress that the city has made in tandem with our consultant Trans Systems. Matt is going to share kind of a brief overview of what a quiet zone is and how this can be implemented at the crossings that we've identified.
Yeah, Chad, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Sorry about that. We lost connection. But yeah, so a quiet zone. So the Federal Railroad Administration requires trained engineers to blow their horns 15 seconds before at-grade crossings. But to counteract this, they implemented some rules to provide communities a way to silence train horns, but also maintain that same level of safety. This is called the quiet zone. Typically, quiet zones include gates, flashing lights, constant warning time devices, and power out indicators. For the roadway portion, they need to have some advanced warning signs to indicate to motorists that there is no train horn ahead. And there are typically about 4 supplemental safety measures that we use at these crossings to convert these to quiet zones. For this project, we are sticking with the 4-quadrant gates. What this does is provide gates to entering and exiting traffic on each side of the roadway. The point of the extra gates is just to prevent motorists from just driving around the gate. And then the other one we used on this project is the 2-quadrant gate with median or channelizers. What this does is just uses one gate as well as a median, and that median will act as the barrier to prevent the driver from driving around.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, so working within those confines it was the goal, each of these crossing locations, and the overall goal of this project at this time was to develop conceptual plans for each crossing. So at this time, we don't have any construction plans or a contractor on board to construct them. But we did identify the crossings that will be included with this, and concepts that will help make this area a quiet zone. Those crossings are at Dennis Avenue, 151st Terrace, and 159th Street. Here you can see a exhibit of the planned modifications at the Dennis Avenue BNSF crossing, both the main tracks and the spur. That spur did create some challenges as we were working through the concepts here, as the median, the raised median would not work here, as it would have restricted access to Keeler Street, which is not something that we were interested in doing. So we did land on implementing the 4-quadrant gate system here to meet the FRA's requirements for a quiet zone. Doing so allowed us to use the existing gates, the 4 existing gates, and install 4 new ones. As part of that, we would require the additional signage that Matt had mentioned, new pavement markings, and sidewalk crossing panels, and a slightly realigned sidewalk there at the north side of Dennis, where it crosses the spur tracks. Here you can see a cross section of what that street will look like. Utilizing no median and using the 4-quadrant gate allowed us to not have to modify the width of Dennis Avenue. And again, the only modifications to this existing infrastructure will be the crossing panels and that small section of sidewalk that crosses that rail spur. Here's a concept that we've developed for 151st Terrace. Here we went with the 2 gate arms and raised median. This made sense at this location as there's already a striped median on the pavement, so we won't have to widen the roadway or anything like that to install this median. We simply construct 10-inch median on top of the existing stripe median. Part of this will include new signage, and similar to Dennis, the new sidewalk crossing panels on the south side of 151st Terrace. This location also has the bungalows with the flashing lights. Those will remain and won't be impacted by implementing these medians for the quiet zone at this location. Here again is a cross section of the roadway and a description of these improvements. As you can see, the roadway width is not going to be impacted, and we can simply install that median on top of the pavement. Here's the exhibit for the concept we have for the crossing at 159th Street. Again, we've gone with the raised median concept here. This made sense at this location as the west side of this crossing has an existing raised median. So we just need to install that 115-foot median on the east side of the tracks. Similar to 151st Terrace, it is already striped with the median, so we don't need to modify the width of the existing roadway, and we can install that median on top of that existing striped area. Part of this location will require us to remove a commercial drive entrance. You can see that there on the southeast side of that crossing. Restricting that access is a requirement to implement the quiet zone in this area. Here again is a description of the improvements and what we will be utilizing that's existing and what we'll be installing. And again, you can see that roadway stays the same. We just install that median at the center line there. Next steps for this project, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is currently in the conceptual phase. We are working on allocating funding for final engineering plans and construction plans, and our budget, which is being undertaken right now. Part of that process is going to include pursuing grant and cost share funding through BNSF and KDOT. And Bridget, if you could speak a little more to that, I know Trans Systems is going to assist us with those grant and cost share applications to look at securing some of that funding.
Sure. So the Kansas Department of Transportation has a biannual cost share. They release a cost share application in the spring and in the fall, and we plan to apply for the fall application. And this is a construction reimbursement program, so we'll be able to receive reimbursement on construction costs only. We're also considering going after some federal grant money, but we feel most confident with our KDOT cost share. And I'll note that if you support this project, please put that in the chat. That always looks great on grant applications.
Thank you, Bridget. So as we've talked about, like we don't have any pending plans to put this into construction. However, once we do get that funding secured, we have construction plans and a contractor on board, we will have an additional public meeting to talk about what those final plans may have changed from these concepts and how the impacts during construction can be expected to affect motorists and anyone driving through this area. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your evenings to join us to learn more about this project. My contact info is on the screen, and if you have any questions moving forward about the progress we currently made or what we're working toward in the future, please give me a call. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Also, if you would like a copy of this slide deck, please drop your email in the chat and I will forward these on to you as soon as I can. And if you have any questions, please place those in the chat as well. We'd be happy to answer them.
I don't see any questions at this time, but as Chad mentioned, feel free to pop them in the chat, or you can reach out to him directly. And we'll be starting this meeting again at around 6:10.
Hey Chad, we got a question in the chat from Olathe 2024. Can you make a bridge on 159th Street close to 169 Highway? And he asked, plan to make a bridge on 159th Street.
On 159th Street, that was not explored as part of this project. In that area, I'm not aware of any future projects that we have to build a bridge at 159th Street. But again, that was not included for consideration at this project or for this project.